Got it.
Thank you.
So one last housekeeping, watch the chat all for the link to subscribe, but also I will be watching the chat if you've got questions. This is very open dialogue, so jump in too. And then we've been hanging on at the end of the call and been able to connect some folks with other agents if they're in need of a luxury agent or an agent in another market. So if you have a need, hang on at the end of the call. Anjali's already pushed record, so I get the pleasure today of introducing our guest, and Anjali is going to be filling the big boots of interviewing on behalf of Jason Smith, who's not here. So today we have the great fortune to have Craig Goodliffe. Yep, Goodliffe's his last name. I know that probably gets old joke for you, Craig, but great last name. Craig joins us today. He is the founder and CEO of Cyberbacker. Cyberbacker is the leading provider of world-class administrative support services from anywhere in the world to anywhere in the world. And I know most of us are here today to learn and hear more about that. So we'll spend some time on that. Craig is also the CEO of Goodliffe Real Estate Group out of Utah. We were just talking, he's got a great team down there if you need anything in Utah real estate related. And I can't believe he's still making time, but maybe he'll tell us if he is or isn't as an executive coach for MAPS coaching. Those are some things I just pulled off of your website, Craig. I know there's a lot more to you than that, but I guess let's get started. Tell us a little bit about what's going on today and what's going on with Cyberbacker.
That is an old bio, and I appreciate
I snooped around.
Well, there you go. So now that's inspiration to get it all changed. But maybe you can start by telling us on this call what needs to be added to that bio and what else we need to know about you.
Well, I'll tell you guys, because we talked about the real estate group. The real estate group right now is called Craig Just Invests, and we have some wonderful tax benefits for that. So I hope everyone's out there investing, because that's a wonderful thing. Right now, we've got 3,300 cyberbackers. We work with not just realtors, not just Keller Williams. We work with all small business owners. We franchise the company and have 53 franchises. We have a profit share goal because our goal is to create retirement in great countries like the Philippines, where a lot of cyberbackers are from. And we've managed to go ahead. Last year, we profit shared $647,000. Back to our associates. And I think this year, we'll if we don't break $1 million, we'll be pretty dang close. And then we also created Cyber Capital, which we loan great cyber backers, because when you pay someone and they work for a company that's international, some banks have a hard time with that. So we loan them money to buy houses and cars, and we profit share the interest, because when you look at hiring anyone to help you with your business that's in the people sector, you've got to be a recruiting company, you've got to be a training company, and you have to be a retention company. And if you're not able to do that, then you have turnover, just like you have in everyone else's world. And turnover is one of the biggest enemies to growth. But let's back up for just a quick second. Hi, everyone. My name is Craig. I'm a human and I make a lot of mistakes.
No worries, all good, Greg. But yes, while we're in the backing up mode, let's talk about how all this got started. I mean, I know you started off in real estate, and what was that tipping point? What was that sudden aha moment that caused you to start Cyberbacker?
So if we rewind, I hired my first person from the Philippines in 2012, and I put an ad out there, as some of you guys have, and I was looking for someone to just post ads on Craigslist when people shop for homes on Craigslist here in our market. They don't do that anymore. And I was looking for someone, and the person who applied was from the Philippines. Her name's Daphne. She's almost worked with me for 10 years. And she says, I can delete and repost things on Craigslist. And I said, well, how's that going to work? And she says, well, I'll change the picture each time. I'll change the description each time. And I'll post every single day. So we were posting pretty aggressively in 2012, and it was a great lead generation source. And one of the things I didn't like doing, and I'm sure you guys do this too, some of you like it, some of you don't, is every week I felt a responsibility to answer the question for my sellers, what are you doing this week to sell my home? And we typically put out a seller report. And I didn't want to chase down the agents. I didn't want to go ahead and gather feedback. I didn't want to go ahead and look at all the places that we were advertising their home. I just wanted to be able to give them this great report and then have a conversation with them. So we hired someone else in the Philippines. And eventually, 2017, we sold 203 homes that year. That was 17 members, 11 people virtually. We had no in-office admin at all. None.
So it was all being done virtually in the Philippines by that amazing group of people.
Yeah, yeah. And so that there's recordings out there if you find old interviews that I says, yes, we are from the Philippines and I'll tell you how, but I'm never going to form a company like Cyberbacker. It was equally as hard as I thought it would be. And we did it because I had some friends reach out that just in real estate says, you got to tell me how you're doing what you're doing, because I've learned what you've learned and I'm not having the same results. Or I found someone great and they're quitting and I'm having this challenge training them. And as we kind of worked through that, I saw an opportunity. This all started out as us just helping a bunch of MAPS coaches. So I've been a MAPS coach since 2015, and I just wanted to make the world a little better for them. And then it got out of control and is this big, we help all small business owners and several great luxury agents and stuff. And that's just kind of the journey.
So now you're sitting here, or all of us are sitting here, or wherever we are in this country and across the world, because you pretty much have people all over the world working with your company. How do you get everyone to have the same experience? I mean, what kind of rigorous training goes in, and are they trained only in Keller Williams systems, or is it across all real estate companies? Tell us, give us the secret sauce.
Well, I'll tell you right now, because it's not just real estate. We service shipping companies. We service mortgage companies. We service traditional HVAC, electrical, plumbing services, stuff like that. Anything where a service-based business owner would need help. We do bookkeeping. We do accounts receivable, accounts payable. I'm going to say the biggest one right now. We go ahead and manage databases and can help people communicate with their database, because not just in real estate, but in every industry, that's pretty big. That's what's going to go ahead and determine your growth.
Oh,
and
absolutely. Your data bank.
That's exactly right. And then social media, because social media is where our world's at now. And so it's a little bit of all that. And what we found was we can go ahead and find experienced and great people in all sorts of industries, and we can bring them in. And time again, we've been able to do stuff like that. Some of the best people we didn't have to train, we just had to find.
Gotcha. Well, the reason I was asking is because Keller Williams has a lot of systems and a lot of processes that you've got to know. So are there a particular bunch of them that you specifically train to work with KW agents and the others work with others? How does it work? Tell us.
Well, so it depends on who you're hiring for and what you're hiring. On average, we've been getting slightly over 20,000 applicants per week.
Wow, that is impressive.
Well, that's impressive.
We a lot of work.
Can only get about 5,000 interviews done. And so we're only going to pick about 5,000 of those. And of those 5,000, less than 250 get a second interview. And then less than 100 make it to where we're going to start training to be a cyberbacker. When we were building it, we looked at what does it take to make a great director of operations, executive assistant. We went back to the KPA, and the company that helped Keller Williams build the KPA is called Burke. So we went up to Burke and said, okay, help us create something similar. And they did. The only difference you're going to see between a Keller Williams KPA and the cyberbacker CBPA is we have a typing test, so you know the speed in which people can type, and we have an integrity test. We can tell the probability that someone's going to lie to you.
I think we need to get that incorporated into the KPA as well. Let me just get with Gary on that.
Well, it's one of those things that we go ahead and we're literally hiring people that small business owners can bet their business on. So then from there, we know that someone's going to be a great fit to work with a great Keller Williams agent. And we start them in command training. We start them in database training. We start them in a lot of things that most KW agents are going to use. So
That's what I was getting at. So yes, so they are trained in command. So if I get a cyberbacker, I don't have to then start training them and doing all of that. That makes sense.
No, the only thing, and this is today's training, Keller Williams done such a great job of being a training rich company that a lot of the stuff you need is out there. The thing that no one is going to be able to train into a cyberbacker or anyone that you hire to do a job for you is preference. Because each of us have different preferences on how we like our business handled. Each of us have different preferences on the way we like to interact with people. Some are texters, some are that. I mean, it's as basic as some of our preferences are writing with our right hand versus writing with our left hand. And it's still the process of writing, but there's some preference between the person who's asking the task to be done and the person doing it. And so going through and determining everyone's preferences is the piece that really requires a little bit of time in the beginning. And once you have preference dialed in and you have training dialed in, it becomes pretty unstoppable. It's great.
So how does the whole matchmaking process go? Is that the CBPA and interviews? So then we find someone who is working at our pace and with our personalities, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah. So we go ahead and we break it down through following a pretty rigorous CV process. And then we go ahead, we've got an entire career division that's all they do. We've got our growth division that's going to meet and make sure that number one, a cyberbacker can help someone. Can't help everybody. Some things, I'm just going to tell you, we know they require a physical presence. We know if they require a license or certification. And we make sure that the person that we hire is going to be set up for success. Because if we can't meet people's expectations, then there's someone who has stayed up late, working hard, that's going to lose their job. That's always it's an emotional thing. And we don't want to set anyone up for failure. So we have that person who does it. And then they basically work with the career team to say, here's what I've got. Here's their job description. Here's where they want to take their business. Here's their goals. Here's where they're at. And they go ahead and say, here's who we have that are our candidates that we think are going to be good. And then they work together to pick out a few. So you can go ahead and do this speed dating process, which is kind of rapid fire, where you can interview a bunch. Because some people, if we're just being honest about preferences, and this is just the world we're in, that just speaking to them, they just don't give you a good feeling. And there's nothing to put your finger on. Maybe they sound like the uncle you didn't care for. Maybe they have a little bit of an accent. Whatever it is, you can usually tell pretty quick out of those 5 who you gel with the best. And then you go a little bit deeper in that process through a secondary interview.
Okay, so speed dating. So you get sent a bunch of people, you speed date some, and then you get into a deep dive of really getting to know each other. This sounds like a regular relationship. So that's fun. Now we have a question in the chat saying, can 2 agents share a cyberbacker?
Yes. I'm going to tell you, if I'm doing that and I'm sharing an assistant, one, you want to make sure that they're doing the same task for you they're doing for the other person. Because if they start out as a social media manager for one person and a transaction coordinator for another, I haven't seen someone that's able to put that together successfully. But if you're hiring one person and they're going to manage 2 people's database, that can work pretty well. One of the challenges is when you do that, you're investing in a cyberbacker because you want your business to grow. And what happens is, as you're investing in that cyberbacker and your business is growing, and let's say someone else is and their business is growing, eventually it's going to be a fight for who gets that person. So if you jump into that agreement, you want to let the person know that this is my cyberbacker. I'm sharing them with you, because I've seen time and time again where people grow their business and it turns into a fight, and the cyberbacker's like, I don't know what to do here, and it's very awkward for me, and maybe I don't want to work with either person. When you hire someone, though, you're investing in them and you're investing in your business. And anytime you invest in your business, I don't care if you're hiring someone or it's a piece of marketing, there's got to be a return on that investment.
Absolutely.
That's how you.
So I'm taking it's not the best business practice, really. You'd rather just have.
It's a great starting practice. That was for me, if I knew my biggest challenge in this world, the bane of my existence was working and managing a database. By the way, it is. So that's very easy. So I've got Jen with me right here on another screen all the time on Zoom. But I would start with that, and I would have a 6-month transition plan to make it so they're just part of my business. And then, yes, I've seen that work successfully. but you set expectations going in that, hey,
Absolutely.
part-time there for you. My business is going to grow. When that happens, I'm going to need them more and they're going to stay with me.
And
So
speaking of,
sorry, I just wanted to follow up on that question on the same, and Anjali, this may be on your list of questions, but what is the, are cyberbackers traditionally full-time with each agent? How many do they have? What's a typical business model look like for?
1-to-1, 1-to-1. And the reason is we've seen it a bunch of different ways, but I've seen a lot of calamities when they're working with multiple people. And if you see people that'll go ahead and just, there's a lot of different people advertise online. I will work for you. I'll be your virtual assistant, all that. They'll take 6 or 7 clients that they absolutely cannot manage.
Yeah.
No one gets their needs met. And the person just goes ahead, and as much as they'll do their best, it ends up falling through the cracks. I mean, truthfully, this is kind of old school real estate where a lot of us would go ahead and not love the idea of our assistant working for 5 other agents. And if they were in the office sitting next to us. So it's ideally it's the 1-to-1 relationship. And it's like you would expect from a regular person who is joining your team and you're hiring. I mean, it is. The only difference is geographically they're somewhere else.
absolutely. And I'm guessing it doesn't always have to be a full day that you hire them for. There are options, right? To hire them part-time, half day.
Well, and
Whatever you
some,
need.
well, some of you, if right now the thing that you're missing in your business, and I just mentioned this because I've seen a common one. I've seen a lot of people get exposed lately. If you do not have the database where it needs to be, and the reason is you haven't collected everyone's information, you can hire someone, and I think everyone should have this person, who takes every contact in your phone, every friend on Facebook, everyone on LinkedIn, and builds your database based on that. And every time that you add someone on one of those things or you meet someone, they're adding them to your database. That person doesn't need to work the same hours. They don't have to work a graveyard shift. They can work during the day for them. And you're probably not going to have much communication. I mean, you can hire that for very inexpensive, very, very inexpensive.
Okay. So also talking about the pricing, I mean, I'm guessing you can go and connect with people, or rather we can connect on your Cyberbacker website and get more information and set up appointments, right?
Yeah. We're welcome to go ahead and connect. Cyberbacker.com is great. You can call me. I say you can call me, and this is one of the things that I think every luxury agent should have. Once upon a time, which is how all great stories start, I went ahead and I was calling into BMW's concierge service. And while I was on the phone with them, I noticed a little bit of an accent. And I asked the question, I said, where are you from? This person was from India. And I said, that's cool. And I said, what are some of the things that people do for you, or that they ask you to do for them? So I say, well, I load, navigation to their car. I book dinner reservations. I can talk to people and tell them their horoscope. I can play games to keep them awake. And they list off all these things. And I went, well, that's fascinating. I wonder what would happen if I could go ahead and just take my phone number and turn it into that. So I hired, and truthfully, this is a great thing. If you call me, 801-686-8043, someone will answer most of the time. And you can go ahead and it's concierge. I mean, they will go ahead, and if you need something done, they will do it. If you need a dinner reservation, they will do it. And if you turn your phone number into that, which I'm going to tell you, it's conditional call forwarding. Instead of going to voicemail, it goes to that number. And it's a great thing that, you can make people want to call you. I worked with a few people that developed that into an inbound 100. And this is why you have a lot of people that'll do inbound 100s and get calls answered every time, where 100 people call you in a day.
That is such a cool idea. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. But
I can feel it.
well, and especially in luxury, because if you look at a lot of high net worth individuals, they don't
Absolutely.
love leaving voicemails, and they don't like going ahead and calling and hearing, their agent's voicemail followed by a message that says, this mailbox is full, cannot receive other messages, which happens more than we want to admit in real estate. Some of you guys are smiling because I know it's you. Anyway, but that person who's a higher net individual, they want to talk to someone and they want to know what comes next. And just having someone answer your phone can be a very, very powerful thing. And if you go ahead and say, listen, when you buy a home, if your water heater goes out, just call me, and the person who answers the phone is going to contact your home warranty company. or we're going to call a service professional. You need a house cleaner? Just call us. I'll find you one. If they know you are the all-in-one, that's one of the things that I think a lot of people miss that separates the great luxury agent versus just the average. It's kind of like if I go to a high-end hotel, I'm having someone shine my shoes. If I go to the motel, that service doesn't exist. You know?
Yes, that is so true. That was my next question, saying, tell us some of the most interesting creative ways that your realtor clients can use your company. And I think this would be a great example right there.
Yeah. Well, so real quick, because I'm going to answer a question for Eric. Eric, where can you go see some social media profiles that are managed by a cyberbacker? I'm going to tell you what, while we're chatting right here, go ahead and find me on Facebook and send me a message real quick, and we'll see if I reply or some magic happens right there, just for fun. So, but you can start, yeah, like me personally, you can go look at cyberbackers too, because we manage our own. But what are some of the different jobs and things like that a cyberbacker can do? If you look at some of my favorite agents have great YouTube content. And I'm going to tell you, we've got some stuff on YouTube. If you go look me up on YouTube, I don't do my own stunts. You can tell some of those videos are professionally edited. It wasn't me. And that's one of the things, because when you're going to be a great luxury agent right now, it requires a presence that's a little bit different than the average agent. And I'm sorry if this is just my opinion, but when you're going to be in this luxury industry and you're going to be a great person at it, it requires a video presence. They want to see you. They want to know you're an expert. You don't have the ability to be more of a secret agent, and your content, what you're putting out there, it takes some work to go ahead and have it made so it just really pops, and it can't look generic when you're a luxury agent. So like a great marketing director, a great graphic design person, a great video person, that's someone a luxury agent they're going to need. You need that full-time thing. We talked about the concierge as being a big one, but also someone we talked about calling your database in this business like to nausea. But truthfully, when you're going to go ahead and work with a high net worth individual, calling and going ahead and saying, look, I want to make sure that we've got your services lined up. Can I help you with that? Not just for lead gen and not just calling your database to lead gen to them, but actually calling to genuinely, authentically service them. That's a big deal. And things like that, it's required. And making sure that every part of the way that they receive that white glove service, which is a report every week saying, here's all the places my home's being showcased, and going that extra mile to make them feel important.
Sorry. So I was just going to say, so I think as an agent, we have to have a lot of clarity as to what exactly we need from you. Do you need someone to help you with your database? I guess that would be a different set of people we would be interviewing, or someone to help us with the concierge. That would be a different set. So we need that clarity, right?
Yeah. And this is right now, when you're the expert, like the brain surgeon, you don't even pick up your own scalpel. We've all seen it. Scalpel, someone hands it to you. Truthfully, I'm going to tell you, this is me personally. If I'm hiring today, my absolute number one hire, and I hope I don't unplug her right here. Guys, this is my wonderful cyberbacker, Jen. She's right here.
We've been communicating with her. She's really good. Thank you.
She's great. She manages my digital world. She manages really everything, because if I tell someone here that I'm going to do something, if I make you a promise, to me, I just have this thing that if you tell someone you're going to do it, you better do it. And she's my promise keeper. And
I like that term, hire a promise keeper.
Well, and if I go ahead and say, hey, we need to get this message to someone, she can log into my texts and send a text. She can go ahead and jump into Facebook. She can make sure that my schedule is coordinated. I mean, my job is to show up and do my job. My job is not coordinating schedules, And so that right there, in my opinion, that's the best hire I've ever made. If I'm driving, which guys, some of you guys are doing this right now. You're driving as we speak, I'm not going to call you out, but for me, when I drive, I use that time to make calls. The problem is I would find that I wouldn't follow up. I wouldn't take activity. And sometimes I wouldn't even know who I needed to call. Well, true story. Jen will go ahead and jump on the phone with me when I'm driving. She can update a CRM. She can go ahead and handle a text message or an email. So when I make calls and there's things I got to get caught up on and I'm driving, she does that. And if one of my favorite things is I've got a pair of Echo frames, which if I were going on a listing appointment, I could sit there and say, okay, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and Jen's typing in listing paperwork as we're doing it. But I mean, this is the one-to-one person who manages my 80%. That is a life-changing hire. The good news when I first made that hire, because this is back in like real estate days for me. Good news about making that hire is I was massively more organized, because I just get an itinerary every day that says, here's the things you need to do, and here's the times you're going to do them. And that's what I work from. And it took me about 3 or 4 years to get an assistant who could do that the right way. So it was a long process. But the bad news is I actually had to do it because I had someone who was like the babysitter, which, funny side note, we're going to call the company Virtual Babysitters as a joke, because it was, I realized my son was successful at being a 4-year-old when he had a babysitter. When someone said, okay, buddy, it's time to wake up. Okay, go play with your toys. Okay, now it's time to eat. Well, you know what? It's adulting too. I mean, she tells me, Craig, you got to go eat. You're going to go ahead and be in 2 hours of appointments. If you don't eat something, you're going to be cranky and I don't want to listen to you. You know?
Oh my gosh, that sounds like just about the perfect human to have following you around everywhere. So how does it work? Do you just dial her in first thing in the morning and she just stays on the line with you thereafter?
Yeah. That's my level of how I work. It's no different as if she was there. We also, if you were at Mega Camp, you saw we've got the robots. And I mean, I can put Jen on a robot and she can drive and follow me through the office here. I own
my
a
gosh.
store that does a lot of business meetings, weddings, and quinceañeras. If I'm going to go over there and I have to do something, I can put Jen on the robot and we can walk through and I can say, here's all the things that need to get done. And she can go ahead from there, text message from my phone, email from my email, who needs to do what, and coordinate everything. Because it's very easy for me to go around and say, we need to do this. Taking it from what I say to it actually getting done is a big step, the big thing of steps that sometimes gets missed. I don't have the patience or the attention to detail, but Jen does.
I think that is the biggest shortcoming with most agents. We love doing stuff and we get so caught up in the doing that the follow up and the follow through is what really holds us back from, going to the next level. Okay, so for those that did not make it to Mega Camp, describe in a little bit of detail what this whole robot is. Is it like an iPad on wheels that follows you, or what is it?
Yeah, that's the best way to put it, because a cyberbacker or someone remote can do anything that doesn't require a license or a physical presence. One of the things that we've encountered, a belief that people has, is that because you're born somewhere else on the other side of the world, that you have a lower level of intelligence. Because I've heard people that give tasks to their assistant or their cyberbacker or their virtual assistant or whoever that is that are kind of low level, and they give these outrageous big tasks to the person who's physical. What I found is I can find incredibly intelligent, massively hardworking people on the other side of the world that can do everything that that person can do except the physical presence piece. And so I got thinking about how would we actually do that. And so we went out, we found a company, we worked with them to go ahead and put a cyberbacker in a robot. So in essence, you could drive around. And I was having some fun with Gary Keller. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if you could go ahead and take them and do 2 open houses at the same time? Yeah, you could. If you're an agent, you could have, each one put in a house. As long as there's no stairs, you could go drive that sucker around. But this true telepresence thing, it's becoming something. And in some of you, if you have like a mega agent office or just an office where agents need help and someone to talk to, or they need answers to questions, and if you have that office, if distraction knocks on your door several times throughout the day, it's easier to take and put a cyberbacker right there who can handle whatever they need at that moment, rather than go ahead and having them disrupt your focus.
That's nice. So have a sentry posted that answers their needs and guards your work time.
Yeah.
That is super. And that, as a luxury agent, that would be the coolest thing to walk in and say, okay, my assistant and I are here. My robotic assistant and I are here for a listing presentation. That'll put you on a whole other level.
That's exactly.
Speaking of the real people there, are they all, at least the ones that work with the Keller Williams agents, are they all licensed agents, or depending on the task, is it needed? What are the qualifications and certifications, etc.?
Well, so for licensing, each state is different, has different rules. Cyberback, like the ability to get a cyberbacker licensed, just doesn't happen. So we don't even pretend that we're ever going to be able to do that. I mean, we can go ahead in most states, we can put them through K-Score and give them the knowledge and information of being a real estate licensee. But because they're not a citizen, in some cases you have to be, or you have to have a physical address or residency to even be able to test. It just doesn't work. And the likelihood of getting a visa to actually come to the US right now, we've had several cyberbackers apply and less than half get approved. It's closer to about 30%. So you have to work around what your licensing laws are, know what they are, and know what you can and can't do, what you can say and what you can't say, and so do they. So that's kind of how that one works.
Hey, we have a couple questions. So Susie's asking about delegating, best practices on delegating, and also she has a full-time assistant and how to sort of leverage her assistant. Susie, jump in if I'm butchering your questions here. Any suggestions on how my in-person assistant can work closer with the cyberbacker?
Well,
And then someone else asked, I'll just layer you up with the questions about the when you're hiring a cyberbacker, are there different levels of qualifications that you can acquire?
yeah, so jumping in real quick, delegating and filling people's time, that's all based on your business plan. And so if you just start, like where I go is there's 2 pages in Millionaire Real Estate Agent that like I live and breathe by. That are great for all businesses, not just real estate. But if you look at page 109, the 8 goal categories of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, that's going to start with some of your delegation tasks. So page 109, make sure you're doing every one of those, that you have a goal and that you're hitting it. And then one of my others is page 219, where Gary identifies the top 16 issues between earning $1 million and netting $1 million. And I'm going to tell you a true story. I've got a guy I coached for a while. He's in Canada. He's always in the top 5. He's been asked to speak at masterminds, mega camps, family. The guy won't come to the US. He just that. But I can remember I says, okay, in our coaching, page 219, we're going to go ahead and solve every one of those problems. So he did. And right now he's making over $2 million a year, and he doesn't work. This is why we're not going to get him to an event. He just, it's great. Thanks for letting me be part of Gary's group. I just want to be a dad, and I have a real estate business and it makes money. So I'm going to do that. But he solved the issues. He had every one of those completely dialed in. And so you look at page 219 and page 109, when it comes to delegating tasks, there you go. That's the best place to start. And then the other thing with delegating is it's your give up list. So if you go ahead and you have someone shadow you, or if you go ahead and just look at how you're actually using your time, you take your highest income producing activity, and what that is, that's your potential income. So anything that's not paying you that, in fact, anything that's paying you 0, you got to start getting rid of. There's this app that I used once upon a time called Rescue Time. And I was looking at where I was spending my time. And I will never forget being mortified learning that I was spending 33 hours a week on average on social media. And so we look at just the joke of social media on Message Me. I learned that a lot of the tasks that were being done on social media, a lot of the things I was posting, someone else can post. And I just need to put them on another screen, not where Jen is, and they can hear me speak and take some of the stuff I say, and they can put that on social media. And a lot of the messages I get, they can handle and respond. And so I have to check in with it, but I went from 33 hours a week to 3. And that made a big difference right there, because that was a task I gave up. And so Facebook wasn't writing me a check, and neither was Instagram. And so I delegated those things. But you go ahead and you're constantly just leveling up by saying, here's what I'm not going to do anymore. Here's what I'm not going to do. And you start with 0 income producing activities. Some things, time with family, that's priceless. So I wouldn't recommend you delegate that. But it's the process of elimination. And then how do you get your in-person full-time assistant on board? That one is the age-old question. And that one's, seriously, it's the age-old question. The easiest way I can tell you to get them on board, and this is not a nice answer, so get ready, it's by getting them to be so busy that they've got no choice, but to accomplish all the tasks, it requires leverage. Their workload is so large that the only way they're going to do it is by asking for help. Because if it feels like they're drowning, people will go ahead and take the life preserver. But if not, you realize that sometimes we have assistants who see how good a cyberbacker or something is, and they start having a self-realization moment that I have to get better or I'm going to be out of a job. And I mean, that happened to me back in the real estate team. One of the things when we talked about the team going to being completely virtual, we had in 2013, I had a lady that worked for us and she'd been there about a year. And she went ahead and said, I don't think you need me anymore. I said, of course we need you. Why would you say that? And she said, because the people we've hired are doing this, and this, and they can do it better than I ever could. And with the exception of in-office filing, which a lot of what you're doing is going paperless, I don't see how I have a job in 6 months. And it was a very fair thing. So she quit and found a job. I worked with her to find a job that she loves, and she's still there, and that, played out great. But eventually, if someone knows that a task can be done better and it can be done for less money, you're gonna have a hard time getting anyone on board with that. People don't want to work themselves out of a job. So
that is brilliant advice. It just makes so much sense. Now, there are so many things that can be done. Is there like a list that you have on the website of of everything they can accomplish, or do we just reach out and say, hey, I have this need? I mean,
so yes, we can give you list after list after list. If you go ahead and put all those lists together, you come up with the job description that's going to put someone in therapy. So the best thing to do is actually go to cyberbacker.com and have them work with you to develop a job description. Now, based on your goals and where your business is going, because if you say, I want someone who's going to be a transaction coordinator, yes, we have that job, but it's a very different job for someone who's doing 10 transactions a year versus doing 1,000 transactions a year. Absolutely. The person who's doing 10 can add in like social media and stuff like that. The person who's doing 1,000 needs to add more than one transaction coordinator. Mm-hmm. And so talking to someone who's an educated growth backer who can say, here's realistically what you can expect, like based on your business and where you're taking it, they can do this, this, and this. And if we focus on here, we're really going to win.
So what I'm hearing you say is go through those 2 pages in the MREA, figure out clearly where you're falling short, and then fix an appointment with someone at Cyberbacker and they will help us develop the job description and then give us a panel to speed date, and then take it from there to a deep dive, and then we get married. Awesome. That's well,
no hire should ever be official until they've made it through a 30, 60, 90. Cyberbacker included. And the wonderful thing is, if you look at just the regular hiring world, if day 30 comes and they're not working, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to tough it out because they've got potential. I'm going to tell you what, there's times that our head backers or people will say, look, they're not performing at the level we need them. We're going to switch you out, and they're going to go ahead and give you someone different. Or you might even say they're not working out and and you're going to choose someone different, versus a lot of people will stick it out because they don't want to go through the pain of rehiring.
And that is another question. So I reached 30 days. I'm sorry, Jen is not working out for me, which I can't imagine. But do I then start the process all over again, or do I go to the person I had that was second on my list if they haven't already been taken?
Yeah. So what's going to happen is they're going to look at where was the challenge. Was it in the job description? Because sometimes people tell us they want a transaction coordinator, but they really want an ISA. Mm. And so if we bring second on the list, it's not going to be successful either. So we look at what didn't happen or what is, and basically after 30 days, you're saying, okay, they're at least moving in a positive direction. I think they've got this. And based on, we've got a group of people, we call them the trio, who they're either going to agree with you or they're going to say, no, you're being a little too optimistic here. But they're going to be ready with people. And sometimes it'll be one of those, I hate to say it, but it's a sneakier process where we're going to let that person keep trying. And we're going to put them on very short timelines. While we're doing that, the growth and career backers are already working on someone else.
Okay. So it's, you still have your plan B working while you're trying out plan A to push it a little more. Fabulous. Now, what software platforms do you recommend are the best to communicate? Now, like I was just kidding when I said, you dial in Jen first thing in the morning and she is everywhere with you. I don't think that would be realistic, but what would be the best way to do it? What
The way
platform?
the way you typically communicate as far as your current platforms. If you typically are a call and text message, don't go ahead and adapt to like WhatsApp or something like that. Use what you already use.
Okay.
What happens is the more friction points you add, the less successful you're going to be with that hire. The more you have to change to meet that hire,
Mm-hmm.
the higher the probability rate for failure. For me, I was already using Zoom. So for Jen and I to go to, and it was, I mean, it wasn't originally Zoom, it was like Skype or something, but I was already using it to meet with clients. I was already using it for other purposes. So it was a very natural thing for me to just go ahead and say, look, let's just meet on Zoom all day, because that's how I already was communicating. And I preferred having someone that I could just verbally speak to all day. I didn't want to go ahead and go through messages and emails. And some people, they see my setup and they say, that would drive me crazy. Someone's always there. I mean, oh my gosh, heaven forbid you do something to make yourself look stupid on camera, which I do. I'm sure Jen would have a really funny B-reel of, well, he's in the corner scratching his back of his head today. But
You don't know it, Craig. She's actually already started writing a book.
yeah, it's going to be great. Some things I've seen.
So me again, Jenny over here in St. Pete or Clearwater area, she is asking about financial investments and how to get started. I think we'll save that just for one more minute, because I know that's probably going to be there'll be a lot of questions on that. And I'll trump her with my question, which is, how do you maintain the personal level of service as a luxury agent versus, I mean, for me, that's a big risk of giving up that personal engagement, right? With the texts and the phone calls and the knowing exactly what's going along the way. I'm guessing that's a common challenge somebody comes up with hiring an assistant or a cyberbacker, right?
Yeah. So first thing, it's setting the ability to go ahead and be great in this market we're going into is going to be based on your ability to put yourself in the consumer seat and live there for a minute and say, okay, if I'm the person and I'm making, $10 million a year and I own a $20 million property, how would I like to be handled? How would I like to be treated? What would I like the experience to be?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can build your business around what that person wants and what their expectations are, you're going to do 1,000% better than the person who's unable to see that. The more time you can spend in the mindset of the customer, that's it. How would I like to be communicated to? What would engage me? What would my interest want? Once you go ahead and develop that, that's where the magic lives. And the more frequently you can visit that and live there, the better off we're going to be. And then as far as financial commitment, it's just like a regular job. You're going to have different people that based on their skills, they make more or less. If you want a full stack web developer that can build you the equivalent of a Facebook page, we can find it, but it's going to be a lot more money than the person who's just doing data entry into a spreadsheet. So ideally, our growth backers will meet with you because you're really looking about on the low end, 800 a month for someone who's good, that's going to stay. To on the higher end, if you're looking for a great web person, I've got someone that's on my staff in the Philippines that they're making $4 grand a month or more, and they're doing some colossal things. So you want to meet with them, and the growth backer is going to help you identify what's kind of the average fair market for the position. A lot of times when you're budgeting, I tell people to budget about between 1,500 and 2,000. And if you just look at the job description, that's what's going to determine how you find and keep that great hire, so that they work with you on that. And then another great question in the chat here, because I want to make sure we address them. This is a big one that Alex asked, is how do you establish what is enough for one cyberbacker versus too much? And how do you know you're not making them do too many things? So I think with everyone you hire, not just a cyberbacker, with everyone, you want to have a one-on-one every week. And you want to establish really solid KPIs, key performance indicators. And every week you're going to have them report a KPI. And here's how you know you're winning the position. You're keeping score on something. When KPIs start becoming longer and harder to measure, and they keep getting missed, that person either just isn't the right person or they have too much on their plate. And if consistently they were showing up hitting their KPIs, but now they're not, a lot of times it's too much on their plate. So that's going to be the big part right there. So one of the things that I recommend is have them go ahead and have KPI for things that matter, things that need to be counted, whether it's people in the database, whether it's contacts, whether it's whatever it is. Establish a KPI that if they do this, we're going to win. And then you're monitoring that plus a living job description, because eventually you want to have someone that can cut part of their job description and paste that on another page, and that's someone else's job description. That's just how you grow. Eventually you might start off with someone who's kind of your all-in-one. They do everything with you, but they're going to give up, probably just like in the MREA, transaction coordinating. And that's going to be their first thing they get to give up. And then the next is probably listing management. And then the next is probably database management. So, and then another one I didn't see because it mentioned experience. Experience is going to be trained. Character isn't. So hire for character first, not just virtually, but in general. My wonderful assistant, Jen, prior to working online, worked in a call center. Before that, worked for Texas Instruments building microprocessors. And her background has nothing to do, her experience has nothing to do with what she does now. There's nothing saying that, but I hired the right character. I hired someone who had a track record of persistence. I hired someone that had a track record of overcoming challenges. And I hired for character of someone that's just going to be massively reliable and a track record they show. And I see people constantly, not just virtually, but they hire for experience and they didn't hire for character. And that person continually lets them down. Hire great character and train experience, because truthfully, if the experience is there and the character's there, they already have a job. And that person's doing so much to keep them, you're not going to get them. When character and experience match, and people know they've got that person on their team, they're going to go ahead and pay whatever it means to keep them because they're making that person too much money. But if you hire for character and you develop experience, you're going to have that hire that works for you. So
Wonderful. That was very simply and eloquently put. Very true. Michelle has a question about mailings. Now, Michelle, did you mean mailing like envelopes or emails? I wasn't quite sure. Would you want to unmute yourself and ask? Maybe she signed off.
Well, that's okay. It's a great question to talk about that, because I have people mail packages from me to other people. And there's a lot of different programs out there that can send handwritten notes from you, and someone in the Philippines can do it. If you send mail across the seas to be shipped, you're not saving any money. Hire a kid, hire a high school kid. But there's a lot of online services that offer handwritten notes and mailing and stuff like that your cyberbacker can work with you to coordinate.
Yep, wonderful. And Jamie is asking, the figure you had mentioned, 1,500 to 2,000 a month, would that be for part-time or a full-time cyberbacker for database management, etc.?
Yeah, that's going to be full-time, really good. That's that's a good income that they're going to stay. So when you pay them too little, they don't stay. They're going to go ahead and say, yes, I'll work for you while they're looking for another job. So that's going to be full-time, usually, and you don't put hours on people because that's hard to do. Put KPIs and expectations. And at the end of the week, if you're clear on here's the results we'll have had this week. And oh, by the way, we're going to meet on Friday and you report your results. And then I'm going to tell you what we're expecting for next week. When you manage with that, they're going to do just great. And you can go ahead and say 1,500 to 2,000 a month for full-time. They do that. And if they have to work a little later to get it done, then they do. And you're just going to have that some weeks, they're not going to have to work as hard because there might be less properties under contract. And so cool, you get a couple extra hours that week, but it'll balance out. But you hire and manage based on the results every week. So but that's a full-time hire. You can even hire someone like Jen for that.
Wow. Okay. Jen, are you listening? I'm going to be calling you after this.
Other Jen, not you. No, other Jen, not you. Jen here went ahead.
Wonderful.
Greg,
So they work, with their work hours would be the same as ours, right?
Yeah, it's 12 hours difference if I'm Eastern in the Philippines. Yeah.
Yeah, so they would work a 9 to 5 as well, or whatever you decide.
Yep.
Perfect.
Work your hours.
All right. Were there any other questions?
I was just going to ask one more, take it back up, high level strategy. What do you see being a technology company as far as trends that you expect for agents here in the future? I mean, obviously, it seems pretty evident that there's a lot of people with interest in and cyber support. And but what other trends on a strategy level are you seeing?
I'm seeing that right now you're seeing a lot more use in communication platforms over anything else. It's like almost everything wants to have a communication platform attached to it where you can message someone else. And one of the challenges is when we look at real estate, it used to be that if you wanted to reach us, there was in our office with the phone, with the cord attached, because this wireless thing wasn't out there. So you had to call us on this device or you had to stop in. We had an appointment. There were almost only 2 ways to communicate. Then the fax machine showed up and we had 3. Then email shows up, then Facebook, then Instagram, then WhatsApp, then TikTok. And if you look at the biggest thing that's happening right now, we don't know what the next social media thing is going to be. And we don't know if your database is going to use it, but they're going to expect you to be there to have a conversation with them. And if you look at the biggest need, I think that people have, it's, excuse me for saying this, and I hate using these words, but it's hiring a professional catfish who can help manage all your communication. Because I don't think anyone can list right now all the different ways that 2 people can communicate in today's digital world. Amazon has a social media platform. Where's that? And there's so many different things trying to bring people together that just having one person manage those platforms for communication is a big job, and having someone who can just take that information and filter it on, is this a frequently asked question I can just respond with right here, or is this that I have to plug in and you need to be present for the conversation. So as far as tech platforms, people wake up every day and spend billions of dollars to put us out of business, and it's up to us to go ahead and make sure they don't do that.
So I love that. And forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong. Shannon, I think it's Shannon, said that she just messaged you and you responded. Aren't you fabulous at multitasking? We didn't even see the hands move.
My goodness. I learned this from the Prince of Nigeria, not to brag, sending me an email offering me money. And part of me was a little suspicious that day. And I thought, this might not be the real Prince of Nigeria.
No, he is. I've met him. Oh, I mean,
good.
When we, yeah.
But I went ahead and I looked at how many different scams were out there going on. And I hate using the word, but it is. And I went, gosh, someone could do that for the purpose of good. Let's stop using our powers for evil. And I started looking at it. Someone else went ahead and were doing that. So why don't I just have that too, and have a team and train them really well on how to respond and how we treat people.
That is awesome. Rebecca says, if you're looking to restart and reorganize your business, what do you recommend?
Database. Because right now I see a lot of people going up to the lead aggregates and stuff like that, and jumping into MOFers and hiring ISAs and doing all these different things that require or that can be taken away from you. Your database can't be taken away from you. When you've got people that know, like, and trust you, they believe in you, they know you're going to provide a great experience. Nothing's going to take that away. If you're getting your leads from a lead aggregate, that can be taken away. They can choose not to work with you, and that cuts off a large part of your business. When you have a MOFer, remember, a cell phone was a MOFer. Call me 24/7. I mean, I know and he was a luxury agent in my area way before I had a license. He had a ponytail and had a billboard with him holding his cell phone saying, call me 24/7. And that was like making an offer for an immediate response. And oh, by the way, right now you wouldn't hire an agent who didn't have that. Not the ponytail, the cell phone. But your MOFer can be duplicated. To have someone who can actually take your database from you, that is hard to do. And it's the one thing that every agent knows that their business primarily will come from when they take care of it. And very few are actually willing to step back and say, I'm going to build this out and I'm going to do it the right way. You go ahead, and if you're restarting your business and you dominate your database, you win. And if someone else gets there first and establishes that mind share, you're in trouble.
Mic drop.
Pen drop. That's about as good as we're getting here today.
There you go.
All right, if there's anybody else that has any other questions before we wrap things up or just jump in. Or Craig, if there's anything that we missed, because Anjali and I kind of just get after it and start talking.
You
If
do
there's
good.
anything that you wanted to talk about that we missed, it's you got about a minute and a half.
Here's where to start. Get clear on what you want the customer to experience. Plain and simple, first and foremost, before you go hire anything. Then once you've got that piece, go ahead and look at how you scale it among how many customers you'd like to do business with this year. So here's the experience I want, and I'd like to go ahead and give that experience to 100 people and close 100 transactions. And once you went ahead and you start lining those up, then it's what would it take to make those happen? And then you look at what part has to be done by you. It's non-negotiable, non-questionable. And then everything else that is not has to be done by you. It's done by someone else. Plain and simple. Because you do not get more hours in this day. So you're going to have to go ahead and either figure out how to make a deal with the creator to get more hours in a day, or you're going to need other people's time. And when you have other people's time and you're investing in a human, watching them go ahead and produce return on investment for your business, and you're returning a return on investment to their life, that's probably the greatest experience you can have. And just living with a business that has that, puts people above profit, but still is profitable, you don't lose, and it feels great.
That was awesome. I've just got a quick question I just thought of. Like when you're starting MAPS coaching, they would always recommend that you have to have at least a certain amount in GCI, just to make sure that, you're not spending more than you're making. Is there something like that that you have with Cyberbacker as well, that, your business should be at least at this amount before you look at doing?
Me personally, I'm going to answer this as the MAPS coach. If you go to page 193 in MREA, you take right there what it says you should be spending in salaries, and I'm gonna just scratch that right, talent, and I would make sure that I'm spending that, and I'm hitting that number right there, because if I'm hiring and I'm following that, I don't lose. And anytime, because people will say, oh, it's 36 transactions. Well, not me. I'm a village idiot. Some people, for them, they could do that. I couldn't keep paperwork straight. But I could go ahead and keep that budget part right. And my budget would make my decisions for hiring based on page 193. So truthfully, if you go ahead and, you look at your budget and you look at what you can actually do, start hiring out personal services first. I stole this from Mo because she said, have someone else mow your yard. I'm like, I love doing that though. Well, you're better off going ahead and having someone else do it, and have someone else clean your house. And those are the easiest things to put a salary to, or put a talent fee or service to. And then you start giving it up to where ultimately in a business, you don't do a lot's done by other people, and they do it better than you could. And you're hiring people that do it better than you could.
Makes sense. Well, Craig, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. And I think you've got all of us thinking about how we can better leverage, our work out so then we can get our lives back and make more money at the same time. So it sounds fabulous. And I guess you'll be hearing from a lot of people on this call.
Yeah,
So,
guys, reach out. I'm a real person. If you get a candid message from someone on social media, know that I will see it. But a lot of it's just frequently asked questions on there. So that's how we do. But you can email me, greg@cyberbacker.com.
and Jen will answer.
Well, not even Jen. It's a different team that does that.
Oh, okay.
Can't put too much on her. I couldn't afford the therapy bill that would be required.
True that. Well, thank you so much. It was wonderful having you, and thanks for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you, guys.
Have a wonderful day. And
Hey,
Jen, you want to close out with?
Yep. If anybody is looking for connection, hang tight. I put in the chat a couple times how to subscribe if you need to receive emails. Somehow this was forwarded to you. You can reach out to us. I'm going to put that in the inbox as well, or the chat box.
And tell them who our next speaker is.
Yes, let's see, October 5th is our next first Wednesday, and we have Nikki Ubaldini joining us, which if anybody knows Nikki, she is the owner of the South Florida region.
And a real powerhouse. I mean,
yes,
you don't want to miss that call.
she's exciting. She's got lots of great knowledge, always super fresh and relevant. And we will make sure that everybody receives the invite to that. Anything else, Anjali, that I missed?
No, that's it. If you have any questions, reach out to me or Jen, and we shall shortly be posting it onto the video onto our YouTube page. And I would love it if all of you could go and subscribe to our YouTube page. That'll be great, please.
Yes, we can make it prettier once we have a certain amount of subscribers. So you'll receive, don't worry about it too much. The follow-up email will have the link to where we are putting the videos on the YouTube page. So if you missed that along the way, it's in the chat, but you will get a follow-up email with a link to it. And that's where all the recordings are posted. So if you missed Jason last week or Brady or anybody else, you can pick it up there.
Yeah, it was nice seeing Brady on the call today.
Oh, good. That's
yeah,
awesome. I didn't see.
He was on.
Terrific.
Yep. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next month, same time. Have a wonderful time till then.